And the last game on our list is Wooly Whammoth.
Designed by Rebecca Bleau and Nicholas Cravotta. Artist is Culpeo Fox, and it's published by Smirk and DaggerGames.
So I'm going to start doing this from now on. Just as a warning, this is a review copy that we received directly from the publisher. Anyway, Wooly Whammoth is a game for 4 players, and you each have a board that has 10 spaces on it, but there's a board underneath of it that will elongate as you take out your mammoth. So what you're trying to do is run as fast as you can, basically through this like straight line, and stab the mammoth to get its meat. But if you go too far, you accidentally knock the mammoth off the cliff, you still get its meat, but the guy died. So there's at least a pro and con there.
You fall off the cliff with the mammoth.
Yeah, you fall off the cliff with the mammoth. Right.
You should get 2 meat.
But there should be a faction. We'll get back to that. A faction card that's cannibals. Yeah. Well, anyway.
And there's fewer people eating. So
right.
Should go farther.
Expansions.
All right. Real quick rules rundown. I'm not going to explain everything. But the idea behind the game is you want to get 6 meat to win the game. The problem is you need to use this meat to collect your cards back, because everybody has the same 8 cards, and the cards are basically numeral values of like -3 to +4, something like that. And you're going to play these cards face down. You play 1, everybody does the same, then we flip them over, and then we add up the total of all 4, or well, in the cases that we played, all 4 players. Oh no, y'all. There's 3 players.
We played 3.
Whatever. All the players at the table, we add up all those scores, and that's how far everyone moves. But you also get to modify it based on your card specifically. So mine might be like the 4+1, meaning I can move my card like 4, and then maybe George played a 2 and Eric played a 2. So it's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces, but I have the ability to add +1 to mine after the fact. So there's a little bit of room for difference among the players. Not everybody's playing the exact same game or anything. And if you land on either the last or second to last space, you get to kill the mammoth, you get its meat, and then you reset your board by putting your guy who survived back at the front, or back at your start space, but then you elongate the board by 1 more space, so you pull the board under it out. And you only have 4 lives. If one of your guys dies, you get to get a new guy, and you're trying to, each round you play a new card, but you lose the cards that you played previously. You get to pick up all your cards that you've played if you discard a meat token. So the idea is you have to be really efficient, whatever, with getting the meat without dying, so that you can get 6 at one time, but you have to spend those to get your cards back. Lastly, there's also, well, first off, there's some tar pits on the spaces, so if you ever land on those, you die. If the woolly mammoth ever charges you, because there is 1 card that each person has that's a 1, but it also says the mammoth charges. So after the mammoths are, you decide on that round, so everybody flips their cards over, everybody moves up. Say me and Matt don't get our mammoth, but Eric and George do, but Eric actually played the 1 card that actually makes the mammoth charge. Only Matt and I's would charge because George and Eric had killed their mammoth that turn. So that our mammoths would charge at us. There's a charge deck that you flip over a card and it tells you how many spaces. And there's like detriments too. Like if it didn't kill your guy because it ran over your guy, then you might have to move back a couple of spaces, or you might have to discard a card at random, etc. And then the mammoth returns back to the last space on your board. And then you play again. You flip over a new card, etc., etc., etc. There are 4 different factions to the game. The only difference being that they have a special ability card that has 2 different options. Once you use it, you flip it face down, and you don't get it again until one of your guys dies. Then it flips that card back up. Anyway, you keep going and going and going until somebody gets 6 meat, and they win this silly game about mammoth hunting.
Dope.
So, George, what do you think?
I thought this was a really nice game, a really great family game. The theme is amazing. The cartoon artwork is fantastic. It's really, really good. The art is one of my favorite things about the game. The theme just works with the game.
Yeah. It's so silly. Your guys are so dumb.
Yeah, and it makes sense. If you're charging the mammoth and scaring him off the cliff, then you elongate your board because the next mammoth is a little more wary. You have to start, he's aware of you a little bit, sooner.
Yeah.
So you have to be coming up from farther away.
Never thought about it that deep, but
Did you read the story?
I read the story.
Okay.
Yeah, the game just has all these nice little touches. It's the sort of game that I typically just would overlook and say, okay, pure chaos. You're just programming. What happens. But in this case, I felt like I did have some enough agency.
Mhm.
I could sort of deduce, because everyone only had 8 cards, I could kind of figure out what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, and where, depending on where they're at versus where you're at, what they want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is some interaction between players, because if they're really close to the mammoth, you might
Make
want
a
to
charge.
Yeah, you might want them to either go off the board or do something else. Make a charge. Like
Yeah.
I said.
Playtime wasn't too long for this sort of game, and you could even just alter that by saying, okay, we're playing to 4 meat, or whatever you want.
Oh yeah, that's pretty easy. I forgot to mention though, if you play your last card, or if you go to play a card and you don't have any, your entire family starves to death and you're out of the game.
Yes.
So you do have to get meat. You do have to spend it to get your cards back.
Yeah, you spend it all the time. It's painful.
Yeah.
Now, although I would actually say that's the one part maybe I didn't like so much on the game is you did have to spend your victory point or your meat.
That's amazing.
and
You didn't like that? I actually
or
thought
to
that.
get more cards. No, because then you would get so close. You'll be up to 4. But man, I don't have enough. These cards in my hand aren't useful for me, so I have to spend my meat to get my cards back to make a meaningful move. For this next round.
I think that's brilliant. Like
I
I
thought
normally hate that.
Right. You usually don't like.
I
the
normally
aspects where
always do not like that.
where there's
Yeah.
you move back in points for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, my biggest thing is I don't like when money is worth 1 victory point at the end of the game, and that's significant, because then as you're playing the game, you have to evaluate, like,
Yeah.
if I spend 5 coins, it's like only a third of my money, but at the same time, that's like 5 victory points, and I'm only going to get 7.
Well,
Like,
that's
I
worth it.
Well, it's worth it, but like that still, I don't like that kind of stuff. I like it
Right.
when money's like 10 for 1 or something silly, where it's like money is just kind of an afterthought at the end.
Right.
This one is the idea of
Basically,
how
your
much
money.
how much longer can I push this? I got 2 cards left. I only need 1 meat. Let's see what happens.
Yes. It's the clever. Can you be clever enough to use your crap cards to still get meat? It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still
really
make
good.
movement.
It's,
Yeah.
that tension is nice.
I will say the only thing I actually did not like is the special powers. I don't really think that some of them are as useful as others.
Yeah.
Honestly, at this point, I'd almost rather have seen like a global list of abilities, and you can just use it to use one of those abilities,
That'd be
Yes.
instead of having a tribe that has special abilities.
Right. Here's my house rule.
Yeah, just
So
put all the
anybody's-
cards in the middle, and when you flip have
Yeah.
a penny or something when
You
you
have
flip it.
you have tokens that are colored to match the different tribe families, right?
Yeah.
And then you have 4 cavemen. There are 4 powers.
Oh. And
Each one of your
gets
cavemen
one.
gets one of them.
Oh, so that's pretty
not bad.
cool. And then whatever one's on the track, that's the card that you're going to be
Yep,
using.
boom.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I actually like that. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Kind of
evens out the playing field too.
Destroys the theming, but how they actually did it. But I mean, I think that's neat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something else I'd really like to see is make up mammoth powers, because each of the mammoths has different art.
And names.
Names, that's right. Stompy.
Stompy. Sadly, the names are covered when you put them in the base, but they actually have funny names.
Yeah, I
Nice.
can't remember the others, but so they could have powers as well, and then who knows? You could have a die that you roll, and so they could switch places as to which mammoth you're fighting.
Yeah.
and they could do things to you. That'd be fun.
I think my favorite part of the game is the way you position the boards. They kind of all point towards the middle, like a X, like if you're sitting at a table, like 2 across from each other. And so
Right.
we just had a pile of bodies in the middle
Yes.
as they fell off the cliff. So
Right.
there's player elimination in this game, but
Which
I-
we got
it's so
in our
cool.
game. We got all eliminated. The last person alive won. I guess in your guys' game, the first person's the 6th one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Yep.
So I'll tell you this: I was not that like when I saw it at Origins, and Kurt's like, "You want this?" I'm like, "Well, tell me about it." And he told me, I was like, "That actually sounds pretty funny."
Yeah.
So, but I had no interest in it before that. Now I'm really glad that he told us about it and gave us a copy of it. And
Yeah.
dude, it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's such a fun, nonchalant game.
Right.
But you don't. It's not a game you can't pay attention. I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to be.
Yeah.
You have to
I mean,
understand what's going on.
Right. To play well, you not only look at where you're at, you look at your opponents and where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many games that are like this. There's just so many games like Give It to the King or Walk the Plank, where you play an action selection and, oh, look what happened because all these people played these cards and you didn't know what cards they were going to play. And yet I still am going to pick this game up.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, it's a fun game. I really liked it. So anyway, final thoughts, Matt. Anything?
It looks neat. I like the art.
Yeah, the
Art
art's
looks
actually
fun.
the art grew on me as I was playing the game. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they just look like You just picture him being so dumb.
They're caveman.
Smack falls off the cliff.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Or they falls in a tar pit.
And that's how you feel. You feel that dumb when you play that card. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, it's a good game. Yeah, it's a perfect length too. I don't think it's like mass. I mean, it says 20-30 minutes. I would argue it's a little longer than that, but with 4 people.
Yeah.
Just shorten it with the number of meat that you have to get to, and there you are.
6 isn't bad though.
No.
Yeah, it isn't bad. It's a good length for having 6, but you could play to 4 if you press for time or something. So, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to add?
No. Overall, I liked it.
George?
Yep, liked it.
Cool. And that is Wooly Whammoth.